following program is to provide entertainment and information. It is not considered to be any legal or investment advice. Happy New Year, appraisers. Let's talk some real estate. You're listening to the Voice of Appraisal, the #1 appraisal podcast in all of America that always brings you the latest news and information from the front lines of the real estate market. Anything from market conditions, appraisal regulations, cryptocurrencies, big bank news. Folks, you have a question, we have all of your answers. We are the one-stop source for all of your real estate appraisal information needs. If you want to be in the know, you have definitely tuned in to the right show. Kevin, how are you today, my friend? Happy New Year.
This is, I just have to say, this is a jam-packed show.
This year, first of all, we have survived to 2025. We have survived to 2025, and this will be the year of the mighty appraisal waiver battle, Kevin. This is the battle, the end-all battle of the appraisal waivers, and what we're going to go over today on the show is absolutely unbelievable. First of all, Kevin, we created quite a stir on that last episode that we did there.
I would say just a little.
Holy Kevin. I mean, I'm just saying, I can't believe it. We come out there, we have this awesome, wonderful data cancer show. We show all the evidence and all the proof. And the next thing you know, we're just taking flack, Kevin. We're taking flack here. We're taking flack there. Anytime you take that much flack, that means that you're right over the target. And we are right over the target when it comes to the dangers of the purchase appraisal waivers coming out of the GSEs.
Bombs away.
Bombs away, and we set some off, and guess what? We triggered a few people, that is for sure. First of all, for the new year, we have a new product in our merch line. So let's go over that really quick. Okay, this is a product that is free. I'll say that one more time because appraisers they're losing money and are not making much money this year. This is free to all of you, okay? I want you to check out the screen right now. This is the brand new Voice of Appraisal, hashtag I love appraisal waivers, and hashtag Stop Data Cancer postcard from our merch line. Right there it is. It's a beautiful postcard. And if you're interested in getting one of these wonderful Voice of Appraisal postcards, the I love appraisal waivers, Stop Data Cancer postcard, go to info@voiceofappraisal.com, info@voiceofappraisal.com. In the subject line, put the word postcard and then put your name. Postcard and then put your name. And then in the body of the email, go ahead and give me your mailing address, all right? I will send you 2 of these postcards. The first one will have my autograph on it, and the second one would be plain, all right? And then what I want you to do is after you get your postcards, you can go to Amazon.com or any other retailer and order yourself a 4x6 lanyard. It's an event lanyard. Here's a picture of it right here, see? Doesn't that look nice? This is my lanyard here in the studios of 1480 WDJO. And you can get you a nice lanyard from Amazon or any place else. Then put both of your postcards in your lanyard, and you can wear these to all of your events throughout 2025 to show your support for the appraisal waivers and the purchase appraisal waivers that are being put out by the GSEs. If you're going to one of these coalition meetings, wear your Voice of Appraisal, I love appraisal waivers. If you're going to a big sausage party, you'll have your lanyard available so you can proudly wear your I love appraisal waivers postcard to all of your local events. One thing that would be awesome is if you wore this at the Aero conference this year. The Aero conference this year, because the regulators need to know what's going on with these appraisal waivers.
I think if they wore them to the Aero conference, they would be escorted out.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you're allowed to wear them in the Reva room. Okay, if you're in the Reva room, I don't think you're allowed to wear the appraisal waivers, Voice of Appraisal, I love appraisal waivers lanyard. But I think you'll be okay throughout the rest of the Aero conference because the regulators need to understand what is going on with these appraisal waivers, because there's going to be a lot of problems, especially those legal issues that are going to come up with real estate agents in these appraisal waivers. So the next show that we do, we're going to have a very special guest, and this guest is going to break down the liability that real estate agents have and possess when it comes to these appraisal waivers. And there's already been a bunch of attorneys that are getting together that are talking about creating and developing lawsuits and products against real estate agents when appraisal waivers are given on purchase transactions. So it's going to be a wild, wild, wild year. If you send me your name and you send me your address, I promise you, I will never share any of your information with George Hatch. Doxing George Hatch, the doxer. Doxing George Hatch from the appraisals forum out there. Jeez, oh Pete's, Kevin. I put out this wonderful report. I show the data cancer in my backyard. He doxes the appraiser. I actually had to get on to appraisers forum to make a post. I had to actually do a post Because, I mean, pretty soon I was going to start to see my Social Security number pop up on the damn thing. I want to get together, and I want all the appraisers across the country to sort of start this big appraisal waiver hunt, if you would. And I'd like to have like a big heat map. So if you find an appraisal waiver, where are they located at? Where are they at? But the reactions and the actions of George Hatch, let me go ahead and prove Phil Crawford wrong and then end up doxing this address of the appraisal waiver and then putting a map up there. I mean, that's the most unethical shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Think about this for just a minute, Kevin. Think about it. People are going to be like, maybe you're just overreacting. No, I'm not. Think about this for just a minute. On the last show, when I specifically said that I'm not going to give out this information because of privacy. Remember that? I said because of privacy issues, I'm not going to give out the information. Over 800 people listened to that last show. Over 800. They all got it. Over 800 people got, okay, you know what? Phil's presenting this data, but we're not going to put it out there because ethically under USPAP, I mean, you can use USPAP, just ethically, period. It's just wrong to do something like that. Of all the people that listen, no one came out and said, this is what Phil's, except for one. It's absolutely ridiculous. To get so upset and to get so mad about somebody putting out data means two things. Either he's got too much time on his hands, number one, or number two, he's working for the GSEs. I mean, seriously, what else do you think, right?
Right.
Because when we put that show out, then we started taking flack on Appraisers Forum literally within, minutes of the show dropping. And then, which is fine. I mean, I can take heat. I don't worry about that stuff. But then immediately 2 days later, a podcast drops, which is the Market Moves podcast, episode number 21 with Mark Verrett and Jeff Morley. And they have Danny Wiley on talking about appraisal waivers. So literally within like 48 hours, I think we caused some shit, Kevin. I
wonder why they had him on.
If you're going to put out data and information, trying to prove somebody wrong and then putting out someone else's personal information on top of it is just really bad. And if you don't watch it, then you're going to end up getting legally contracted as fast as a Cindy Chance lawyer to the Appraisal Institute on Christmas Eve Day. I'm telling you that right now. Oh, you didn't hear about that? You didn't hear about that?
No.
Christmas Eve Day, Cindy Chance's lawyers? Nah, we're not. That's not. This totally different show. Totally different show. I'm sure that the AI leadership will have full transparency when it comes to the issues with Dr. Chance.
Hey, Phil.
Yes.
I hate to say it, but we got to give him some credit. He did call you a liar and a pimp.
Yeah. He did. He called me a pimp, didn't he? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I'm an appraisal waiver pimp. He is the apex of professionalism in the appraisal industry today. I heard the guy, I mean, I don't know who the George Hatch is, right? I have no idea who he is. But I heard it like he's some legendary appraiser and stuff. Well, if that's professionalism, if that's legendary professionalism right there, oh, God help us all. All right. Speaking of professionalism, let's talk about the recent podcast. This is the Market Moves podcast that was put on literally 48 hours after Kevin and I dropped our Data Cancer show. And like I said, this is hosted by Mark Verrett, who is a second-generation appraiser, if I'm not mistaken, and Jeff Morley, who I think Jeff Morley is Craig Morley's kid. I think it's his son because he looks like Craig. So anyways, on this podcast, Mark Verrett, Jeff Morley, they were introducing Danny Wiley. We all know who Danny Wiley is. He's been a legendary appraiser in the space for a very long time, and now he's the chief appraiser over at Freddie Mac. And they're discussing the issue with these appraisal waivers, how we as real estate appraisers do not understand the waiver process. We need to be set straight on this. We are wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and go over some sound bites on this show because I think that Danny Wiley, Mark, and Jeff do hit some important points that we need to discuss. So, Kevin, go ahead and get the sound bites ready. So let's go to the Market Moves podcast, episode number 21 with Mark Verrett and Jeff Morley. And Danny Wiley is discussing his path to the appraisal waiver space, his understanding of the appraisal waiver process. Hit it, Kevin.
I would say I didn't understand waivers either, really, until I came here. And, you indicated my title as Senior Director of Single Family Valuation. That's true, but the full title includes risk management. And anybody who's been to a conference has heard Scott Reuter say this. We're in the business of risk management.
Stop tape. Okay, Kevin. So they're in the business over at Freddie Mac, in the business of risk management. Risk management. Not collateral valuation, but risk management. Now, I want you all to understand something here really quick. When Danny talks about risk management, he's talking about defaults. defaults. What is the overall default rate of Freddie Mac? So risk management, continue forward, Kevin.
That's what we do. And I certainly understand the reaction from the appraiser community. Because if you don't know how waivers work, and most appraisers don't, I think it is easy to sort of, I don't want to use the word panic, but maybe overreact or something like that to that announcement. I think it's very important to understand that the LTV, and we're talking about the expansion to 90 for waivers and the expansion to 97 on the inspection-based waivers. It's really important to understand that that's just one threshold, right? And there's lots of, that's just gets you in the door to your consideration. And to illustrate that, you can look at some of Ed's numbers. We don't publish these numbers, but Ed does.
Stop tape. He's talking about Ed Pinto. Ed Pinto over at American Enterprise Institute always publishes how many appraisal waivers that the GSEs put out, because the American Enterprise Institute is not happy with these appraisal waivers, and they're basically showing a correlation between how many waivers are issued and how much it juices the cookies. It juices up the market, right? So we're gonna get more into that juice here in just a minute, but let's continue forward with what Danny's saying here.
But Ed does, and you can look at the 80% LTVs now and see what percentage of them get waivers, and it's nowhere near 100%. It's not even the majority of them, right? So LTV is just the first screening step. Then there's a lot of other screening steps behind that. And I'll just get to the bottom line as quick as I can to help reduce the panic and the reaction to this.
Too late.
How much will waiver use increase under this expansion? It's going to be relatively small effect. We'll probably see waiver use increase something on the order of 1 to 2%.
1 to 2% is too much. 1 to 2% increase in appraisal waiver usage on purchase transactions is too much. Now, 1 or 2% means I'm going to have a 1 or 2% increase in new business in 4 years from now when the lawyers sue the out of the real estate agents. Okay, so you're actually juicing my cookies. Okay, that's what he's doing. He's juicing my cookies because I'm going to get more and more work from proving that the real estate agent should have acted as a fiduciary and said, whoa, what are you doing? Well, you got to get an appraisal first before you execute this contract, right? Which is never done.
Of course.
Of course not. So he's actually increasing my 2026 to 2028 workload by 1 or 2% every single year. So I want to thank Danny Wiley for that. Okay, I want to thank him for that because my billing is going to go, we're going to go through the roof on that. Okay, we're going to go through the roof on it. So he's saying that appraisal waiver usage is only going to increase by 1 or 2%. 1 or 2% obviously is, in my personal opinion, a little too much for my liking as an American taxpayer that backs up the company, the quote-unquote company that he works for. So let's continue forward with Mr. Wiley.
Probably see waiver use increase something on the order of 1 to 2%. It's not going to wipe out the appraisal business at all. It's, I would say most appraisers won't even feel the effect of this change.
Most appraisers will not feel the effect of this change. Now, I will go over later on in the show what I think the impacts and the effects of this change are going to be, but we're going to discuss that in just a second, okay? Now, on the next segment here of the show, Jeff Morley asks a very, very intelligent and reasonable question. This is a good question. It's a reasonable question. It is the way that I as an appraiser, you as a layperson, anybody on the face of this planet, this is a very, very intelligent question he asks Danny Wiley. He's making the right assumption. He's going down the right path. He's looking at the sky, and Jeff Morley is saying, I think the sky is blue. But Danny will soon tell him that the sky is a different color. Go ahead, Kevin.
Most of what goes into that decision then, Danny, if I'm understanding correctly, is really kind of credit strength of the borrower. So yes, it can go up to 97% on the LTV side, but then what you're saying is a lot of other factors that get considered have to do with things that the appraiser is never going to see, but debt to income ratios, credit strength and score, are those some of the factors that also then decide whether this is part of or fits the waiver qualification or not?
Great question. Does credit have to do with it? Does DTI? Remember, we've said 100 times over again in 2024, the market will die in a DTI. The market will die in a DTI. It's a great question. I'm assuming that the answer will be, yeah, sure. Let's listen to the response.
Well, that's another common misunderstanding, at least from the Freddie Mac perspective. We call our program ACE, which stands for Automated Collateral Evaluation. And that's what it is. It's an evaluation of the collateral.
Uh,
There is a pre-screening on the borrower side,
Okay.
but different nuances in that do not affect the waiver offer decision.
Okay.
okay,
It's
go ahead.
really all about evaluating the collateral.
Okay. So especially when it comes to the DTI, especially when it comes to the DTI, because, you realize, you understand that as Fannie and Freddie juice the cookies, as they become more juiced, values inside these neighborhoods increase, right? So what increases on top of that? Property tax? Insurance premiums? The DTI on some of these loans, if you factor in health care premiums, because they're skyrocketing through the roof right now. Healthcare premiums, insurance premiums, property, casualty insurance premiums, and property tax increases. And you're setting the consumer up to overpay. This is just, Morley is not, he's right. He's going off of his natural instincts as a risk. This is risk assessment. This is risk assessment, Kevin. Okay, but I got to calm down. Okay, so let's continue forward with the interview. Go ahead.
That's why we call it ACE, Automated Collateral Evaluation. So when we consider anything new, be it expansion of waivers, be it hybrids, any alternative to the traditional appraisal, the first thing we do is test it and compare it to the traditional appraisal.
Stop tape. So he's testing it. Now, what he's testing, this is very, very important. You have to understand this. What he's testing is not the accuracy of ACE, that's their system, okay, versus the appraisal. He's not testing that. He's testing how many delinquencies come from those loans. That's the difference. Everybody understand that for just a minute. He's not testing the credibility of the appraisal value or the ACE value. He's testing how many people go into delinquency, into default, okay? Just keep that in mind. Continue forward.
So we run what we call test and learns. We set up a small test, usually with certain identified lenders in a controlled environment. And we say, well, what if we did this? And then we compare those results to the results of an appraisal, right? And we actually published a paper earlier this year. I sent you guys a link to that. Maybe you can post that, where our chief economist office went back and did a multi-year study on the performance of the loans that were supported with waivers compared to, that's it, credit risk, the case for ACE. And we try to make it a fair fight.
Stop.
So
Why does it have to be a fight? Play that one more time.
And we try to make it a fair fight.
Stop tape. Why does it have to be a fight? Why does it have to be a fight? We tried to make it a fair. Why does it have to be a fight? Why can't you just
supposed to be working together?
Get along with 30,000 appraisers that upload through the UDPC? Why does this have to be a conflict thing? It's a friction thing. Mark Calabria discussed this on a recent podcast with Art Group. It's the same thing. It's a friction. Go ahead. Keep on playing.
So in this paper, we compare the loan performance of those loans that had waivers, not to all loans, but to other loans with similar characteristics that were based on appraisals. And as the paper will show, when you look at the loans where we had the waiver offer, our defaults are lower and our default costs are lower. So I think what that shows you is we've set the dials so that this is not us taking on more risk. In fact, the pure math of it shows we're taking on less risk with these loans.
So there it is. So, he's saying everything right there, Kevin. It's all about how many loans go into default. They have set the dials. They have set the dials to universal basic real estate valuation. That's it right there. I've told you 100 times over again. Universal basic real estate valuation. They've set the dials to that, and now they're going to monitor to make sure if these loans don't go into default or something along those lines. It's just the DTI, the market will die with the DTI. The DTI is going to crush, collapse, and destroy some of these homeowners probably within the next, I'd say, 24 months. It's not going to be good. The DTI is really risky right now. And the fact that Fannie and Freddie are looking at it this way, you have to understand something here really quick. I want to bring this up, and I think Danny Wiley knows it. I know Scott Reuter knows it. I think Lyle Radke knows it. These are not just jobs at some bank.
Right.
These are political positions that they hold. I don't think they understand. Well, I think they understand it. And this political position of we're going to go pro waiver on purchase transaction. This is against everything. I mean, you heard the interview on the ARC podcast. You read the article from Isaac Peck's Working Real Estate Magazine. This goes against everything that Dr. Mark Calabria stands for. He doesn't like this. He thinks this is a bad thing. Now, we don't know if Dr. Mark Calabria is going to be in charge of FHFA again, but if he is, these guys are taking a massive risk coming out on a policy that could be in direct opposition of a future regulator or somebody that has a huge impact over the future regulation of FHFA. I mean, you're going to own it. I mean, you set the dials, right? You own these dials. These dials are yours. And when the DTI goes through the freaking roof and the loans go to shit, these are your dials. You set them.
Your baby.
I'm just saying. I mean, if it were me, I'd be like, I'd talk to my boss and be like, let's go ahead and let's think this through here really quick before we go out with a full on waiver, especially with the new administration coming in.
Phil, I do have a question for you being a layperson.
Yes.
Earlier in that podcast, he had mentioned that they did the test with some appraisals.
Well, they were doing a test. Yes, they did a test.
On some why not all?
Well, okay, that's another great question. That's another great point because I actually questioned that data set too. So if they're doing it with a controlled environment, so they got their little rats in a cage, right?
Right.
Which banks are they using and which banks' AMCs are they using? Are they getting rubber stamped AMCs? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I mean, because remember, because there's only... Remember, Fannie and Freddie
the light is on. Okay.
Fannie and Freddie, they're picking the winners and losers on this shit. Okay, so if they have certain AMCs that they work with, is that test sample accurate or not? That's basically Danny talking about his viewpoint on appraisal waivers, Freddie Mac's viewpoints on appraisal waivers, not Fannie Mae's. A few minutes later in the interview, he discusses what happens in the process of the offering a waiver, okay? And he discusses about what happens when a consumer, this is very important, when a consumer doesn't take the waiver. This is really important. He's obviously talked about what goes in the process of issuing the waiver. Now he's going to discuss what happens when a consumer doesn't take the waiver, So this would be soundbite number 2, Kevin, of this interview. Let's get into what happens when a consumer doesn't take the appraisal waiver. Hit it, Kevin.
We're in the risk management business. We don't manage from feelings, we manage from data, right? And this is something that we're just continually monitoring, right? As you would expect, one of the things we do every month, I think this is some of the most fascinating testing we do.
Here we go.
We make the waiver offer. Well, not everybody accepts the offer.
Stop tape.
Some people.
We make the offer, but not everybody accepts the offer. Now, I want to know what that percentage is. I want to know the percentage of people that do not accept the appraisal waiver offer. I want to know what that is. That's very interesting. Continue on, Kevin.
People say, well, that's great. I understand you're offering me a waiver, but I want an appraisal. Mm-hmm. Well, for us, that's research gold, right? Because we made an offer of a waiver, but then we got a full appraisal report behind that. So we can take those appraisal reports, we can go through them, we can look at them and say, okay, how did we do on the value of that property? How did we do on condition of that property? So every month we take a sample of those people who were offered waivers but didn't accept them, and we compare. We look at our initial decisions, the value we had, the condition probability we had, and we compare that with what we find in the appraisal report that we get on the back end, right? So this is something we continually monitor that.
Okay, so there's a lot said right there. There's a lot said. So like I said before, I want to know what the percentage is of people that accept the waiver and do not accept the waiver, number one. Number two, he specifically said that's research gold. Did you hear that? He said that's research gold. So if they're offered the waiver, but they decline the waiver and they have the appraisal done, that's research gold. That's also known as data gold. Data gold. So why would you trade out data gold for data cancer? Answer me that. If you're in the business of risk assessment, if you're in the business of making sure that your ACE program actually works and works well, why would you ever trade out data gold for data cancer. Because from what I'm hearing right here is that you're basically putting it up to the consumer to make the right decision. You're offering them an appraisal waiver. You're offering them dirty consumer unprotected sex. Financial consumer unprotected sex. That's what you're offering them. And you're hoping at the bottom of your heart that they wear a condom, aka they ordered the appraisal. But if they wear the condom correctly, the appraisal's done for them, for their own purposes, and not for the GSEs. You're trading data gold for data cancer. That just floored me. Danny Wiley is the chief appraiser of Freddie Mac. The chief appraiser of Freddie Mac. Clothed in immense power.
Clothed in immense power.
He is clothed in immense power.
Immense power.
Immense power.
Immense power.
Immense power.
Immense power.
And you're going to trade data gold for data cancer in that position?
Immense power.
What the? I mean, seriously. If that's your policy, for crying out loud, all you got to do is just go down and be like, you know what? We have a really good feeling about the collateral position here. So let's go ahead and just get the appraisal done and see what is going on. It's going to help overall with your risk assessment. But when they're looking at risk assessment, they're looking completely at the delinquency rates, which will start to increase. This credit card delinquencies have gone through the roof this last month. The American consumer is tapped out. The mortgage is what's called giving up the ghost.
Right.
If you do not pay your mortgage, you don't have to pay your car payment. You don't have to pay your credit cards. You don't have to pay any of that stuff. But if you don't pay your mortgage, then that's giving up the ghost. It's giving up the credit ghost. And that basically is what he's gauging his entire credit risk system on. Are these people going to give up their ghost or not? I just look at it and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding. This is why this data cancer thing, if you look at it, if you handicap this data cancer thing out, I mean, I'm telling you right now, I give it a 70% chance of this shit hitting the fan with this. I really
Immense
do.
power.
Immense power. I don't care how much data Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have. I've just been through markets before. I've seen how markets work. You know people are strapped out. You know they don't have enough money. There's no difference between a subprime mortgage rate going from 6% to 12% with a prepayment penalty where you can't refinance it to a mortgage rate flatly locked in at a 4% 30-year mortgage, but yet your property taxes increased by 15%. In some cases in this town, in Cincinnati alone, by 45%. Your property taxes increased by 45%. You got insurance premiums on average of 15 to 20% increase, and you got healthcare costs this year basically up 9%.
Out of control.
The squeeze is coming. So the last thing you need to do from a consumer protection point of view is to have this consumer overpay for this property by tens of thousands of dollars. Again, look at this from a political point of view here. These are political positions. Political positions. From a consumer advocacy position from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. We hope you do the right thing, and if you do the right thing, we'll data mine the data gold, but otherwise, we're going to give you some data cancer. I mean, just politically, it doesn't make any, honestly, I've been in this business for a long time. I always look at things from a political point of view.
Okay.
Politically, it just doesn't make sense.
You know what?
Given where we are now.
You know what that sounds like to me?
What?
Immense power.
You have immense power when the company that you work for is in conservatorship.
Yes.
When you're in conservatorship, when you're not out there being traded on a New York Stock Exchange, you have immense power. And when you have immense power, this is what happens. If this podcast probably will have to come down. This episode number 21 will probably have to come down if the GSEs go private. Because if Mark Calabria gets in there, or somebody like Dr. Mark Calabria gets in there, and they take these GSEs private by 2026, 2028, let's say 2028, they take these things private, they go in, they shut the lights off, and next thing you know, this thing's traded on a New York Stock Exchange, then guys like Michael Burry and Bill Eichmann are going to short the fucking out of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Yep.
They're going to hear this, and they're going to short the out of that thing because somebody over there was exercising
Immense power.
Immense power. That's how bad this could get really quick. This could get bad really fast. At the final part of this interview, about 50 minutes into it, Mark and Jeff asked Danny about the number of appraisers that are going to be in America in the future. What appraisers will look like, how many will be working, how many won't be working. Let's go ahead and hit on that conversation. Go ahead, Kevin.
And my last question, which you may or may not want to answer, is
here it is.
Do you think, let's say that the number is 30,000 appraisers that are doing work that ultimately get to your system. are we going to need, so appraisers aren't going away, but are we going to need materially less appraisers over the next decade too?
I don't know. My gut would say that we'll probably need slightly fewer.
Stop. Say that one more time.
Slightly fewer.
One more time.
Slightly fewer.
Again.
Slightly fewer.
That's the culling, Kevin. That's the culling that we have been talking about for a long time. Slightly fewer.
Slightly fewer.
That means a lot of people are not going to be working in the appraisal space. That's
slightly
how
fewer.
Slightly fewer. That's what it is. And as far as needing the appraisers are going to be needed, but they're going to be working as data analysts for $25 an hour. That's what's going to end up being the future. You know what the future is going to be? It's going to be some bank out there or some major AMC going out to all the different appraisers and going, okay, here we go. Okay, I need a bunch of data analysts. Someone give me a bunch of data analysts right now. Give me a data analyst. I got $20 an hour. Someone give me $20 an hour. Would you work for $20 an hour? No one's going to work at $20 an hour. Give me 2.5. Take her 2.5. Would you go 2.5? I need 2.5. $22.50. Would you work for $22.50? No. Okay, someone give me 25. Give me $25 and go. Give me $25. Yeah, you're hired.
Yeah.
Yes, I got another 25.
Yeah.
I got another 25 right there. I got another 25 right. You're hired. You're hired. You're hired. Hired. I need 10 more. I need 10 more. I need 10 more. Someone give me $25. Someone give me 25. No one's taking the $25. Take her 2.5. Give me 27.5. 27.5. Would you go 27.5? SRAs out there. Hey, I'm an SRA. What have you done for me today? SRAs, 27.5. 27.5. Give me 27.5.
Yeah.
There you go, SRAs. Hired right there. Keep on going. Yeah, we got more SRAs. There we are. There it is right there. SRAs. Sold her right there. $27.50 an hour to your typical SRA. And that's what it's going to end up being.
Immense power.
Immense power. That's what ends up happening when you have immense power. I'm sorry, but one interview and that just basically says Phil Crawford and Kevin Kinney were right for all the shows of 2024. 24. I mean, that's your new product right there. Your new product is doing private residential real estate appraisals for individuals that need to make personal decisions in their life, because consumer protection, as far as I'm concerned, as the GSEs is concerned,
right,
is out the window. They're looking at the concept of what will cause more delinquencies, right, versus is this individual, is this family paying too much for this property? Do they even have the knowledge of what the is going on in this transaction? And that's where we're going to be able to come in. And we're going to be able to push to the real estate agent side. This is all going to fall back on your shoulders. When they find out, when they go to refinance those loans,
right,
after they get these waivers, they go to refinance them at a lower rate, and they find out they've way overpaid for this property. So this is it. This is going to be the big fight for 2025. Are you pro waiver? Are you against waiver? That's going to be the big question that a lot of appraisers are going to ask. If you want to get your official voice of appraisal, I love Appraisal Waivers Stop Data Cancer postcard. Again, send us an email to info@voiceofappraisal.com, info@voiceofappraisal.com, and I will send you out free of charge, 2 lovely postcards for you. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank all of you for listening to the show. I want to thank all of you for all the support. This is now, we're going into our 11th year, Kevin, 11th year on the Voice of Appraisal podcast, the #1 longest running appraisal podcast in America. And yes, we do have
Immense power.
That is true. And let's see how we use it in 2025. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our show. And as always, I would like to thank you for listening as we journey through the mysteries and complexities that are, in fact, the real estate appraisal profession. I would like to thank my producer, Kevin Kinney, for being here, for his thoughtful insight and knowledge. God willing, we're going to be back here very soon, continuing to report from the front lines of the real estate market. In the meantime, you kiss your spouse, you hug your children, enjoy your day. Happy New Year. You've been listening to Phil Crawford on Voice of Appraisal. We'll talk very soon.
Immense
power, Kevin.